One Piece chapter 1120 is here, and it was so good. There's so much to discuss. So the chapter starts off with a flashback 26 years ago in Punk Hazard. I found it so interesting to see Vegapunk at this point in his life, where he has a friend who he values, who he cares about, but he's unwilling to help him in accomplishing his goals, in meeting what he needed to see done based off of his family member that he lost. Contrast that with Kuma and being willing to help Kuma for his daughter's sake, no matter what it cost him, even though he's turning against the people who are funding him, as well as contrasting it with how he is now in wanting to dig deeper into the history of things. And obviously Clover was the motivator of that. Clover was the linchpin for that. So I found it really interesting to see Vegapunk at this point and to see what brought him to the point that he is today, where he's willingly dying for the sake of giving this information to the people. It was also really cool to see a little bit more of Clover's history and seeing that Clover's brother died for his name, for being a carrier of the will of D, and Clover just said, no, that's my friend, I don't know that person, and carried that regret for the rest of his life and dug deeper into it for the rest of his life, in order to understand why he would have been killed for his name. I will note that he didn't say that everybody with the name of D was being hunted down. So I'm not entirely, at first I was a little bit confused because it doesn't seem like the world government is hunting down people with the name of D right now. Like, granted, we have Luffy and Marshall D. Teach who have bounties on their heads, so you could argue that that's a form of hunting them down. They're literally offering a reward for bringing them in or killing them. So that is a more hands-off hunting them down. But if the people of the Will of D are actually being hunted down and murdered, you would think they would be a little bit more proactive about it. So I just want to note, and I don't know if this means anything at all, but I just want to note that he didn't say all of the people with this name were being killed. He just said that the name got him killed. So I wonder if maybe his brother was kind of poking around where he shouldn't have, maybe because he caught on to the Will of D being connected to the Void Century and he was poking around where he shouldn't. And people came and said, hey, yeah, you got to stop that. And then he said, well, I have D in my name, so I want to figure this out. And they said, oh, you do? We'll just get rid of you then instead of giving you a warning. You know what I mean? Like, it could be that the D was the final straw, not that every single D is being slaughtered just for having the name. I mean, I don't know. I'm just making that note because that kind of confused me at first, and this is how I'm rationalizing it. But anyway, he holds that guilt on him, and he's trying to figure out what is it about the Will of D, or what is it about this name D that is causing this to happen, that has caused this to happen to my brother. And from there, he learned about the Void Century, and I love seeing the words that he screamed out to Vegapunk, and Vegapunk crying over it, reckoning with why this was not worth dying for, and then cut to present day where Vegapunk is crying those words out too. And then, so that on its own is so beautiful, but then you also have Robin who's sitting there with her head in her hands, probably recognizing Clover's words, or at the bare minimum just knowing who Vegapunk is talking about and how that hurts her. But then you also have the person with the whips on the panel next to her, the person who she was subjected to that kind of treatment, as Vegapunk is talking about the oppressed carrying on their backs and enduring, carrying on their backs and enduring, and coupling that alongside the flashback where he sees Robin's wanted poster and he's there. You see Dragon's flowers, you see the books in the river. It's just taking something that already had a lot of impact and doing what Oda does, adding more and more layers to it as many times as he needs to really just continue to tie it into the story. And I think that the way that he did it with Vegapunk's character development and what caused him to start digging deeper alongside Robin's history and what caused her to lose everything. It was just so beautifully done, and I really think that in this chapter, Oda was in fine form for his parallels and for that literary symmetry of really tying things together in such a beautiful, beautiful way, visually and storytelling-wise. Another great example of that, another scene that I loved so, so much, is the scene where Ethan is coming in ready to attack their ship, and they're like, we can't get away, like, we're doomed, this isn't gonna work out. And then here comes Atlas pounding Lilith to the ground. Now, at first, I was very confused because I'm like, Atlas is on our side. What are we doing right now? And I think that the way Oda did this was perfect because the impact of that punch was so hard. Like, it hit me so hard. And then we see how much that hurt Atlas. We can see it in her face, how much that hurt her to do that. And then she tells them to go protect Lilith, get out of here. I'm gonna take care of this. And then the determination on her face as she launches at a horse guy, skeletal horse, demon Ethan, yokai, a hardened look on her face as she hits him and then turns on her jets and shoots him off. And then at the same time, the ship turns on its jets and shoots them off, and they go in opposite directions. And those panels side by side of the two jets going in opposite directions, and you can even see Atlas, you can even see Atlas and Ethan shooting off in the panel for the Mary. It was so, the Sunny. For the Sunny, it was just so well told. It was so fantastically done. And then we get the explosion and we feel the impact of what Atlas has done. Couple that again with her last words being so strong and confident. Oh my goodness, I loved this scene and I really felt it. I don't feel like I'm super attached to any of the Vegapunks because the satellites, they were introduced for this murder mystery plot, and it was sort of this and then there were none kind of thing, and so I was watching them get picked off, but I don't feel like, because the focus was on that, I don't feel like I got a strong sense of each of their individual personalities on a really personal level, like how I'm personally attached to a lot of characters in the series. I don't feel that depth with any of the satellites, with any of them. However, even with that being true, as they're dying and making these noble sacrifices, like with Edison and with Atlas, I'm still feeling the impact of what Oda is doing, showing them nobly sacrificing themselves, giving themselves over so that the crew can leave, and so that they can protect Vegapunk's final message. It's so well told. I'm feeling the impact despite them not being characters that have gotten this huge emotional emphasis leading up to it. And we've always speculated that near the end of One Piece, more deaths, more present day deaths, not flashback deaths, would be occurring. And we're feeling that here. We're seeing that in this arc. And not only that, the fact that we have the theme of like what makes a person truly a person. We have that in Stussy being told, just because you're a clone doesn't mean that your life doesn't have value, doesn't mean that you aren't an individual with meaning and with purpose. And we have that with Kuma, whose personality has been stolen from him and he's been stripped of so many things, ways in which he can emote and express himself and show who he is, yet the core of who he is, his loyalty to his daughter, is still there, and he's still acting on that. So these contrasting things of, you know, you were born in a way that that is clone, like that isn't human nature, you're still life and you still have value. And then what makes humans unique and individual and identifiable has been stripped of you, but you're still human, you still matter. And then we have the satellites who are they are extensions of Vegapunk, but they have their own personalities, they have their own consciousness, they have their own will and desires and can move apart from the will and desires of the Stella. They're dying and Oda is treating their deaths with the same emphasis and matter. They matter. And it's just tying into those themes really nicely. So I think the scene itself is really impactful and beautiful, but I think it coupled with everything else that the arc is doing just makes it that much stronger. And then tying into all of that too, you also have what the Straw Hats are doing. Them responding to Atlas's orders immediately. As soon as they realize why Atlas did this to Lilith, they're like, okay, protect her, get out of here. You have Jinbei who's grabbing command, which I love Jinbei. I love the way he does these things. I love how he will, when the Straw Hats are down, when Luffy is mourning Ace and can't get up, that Jinbei will pick him up and carry him out. And this happens, that's the extreme example, that's the big one. But this happens over and over again in the series where there's chaos happening and Jinbei has the level head and he's like, we have to move. And also coupling that with after the explosion and when we see what Atlas has done, we can see the tears in the Straw Hat's eyes as they go away. And it's just, oh my goodness, it's stunning. One thing I've noticed about myself, one thing that Oda has taught me about myself is a really good way to make me aggressively hate a villain is by showing them celebrating in the midst of another person's pain or loss. So York is doing that constantly. She did it earlier in the chapter and I kind of breezed past it, but she's done it in other chapters too, celebrating at the other satellites being picked off, celebrating at the demise of her own and at being able to join up with the baddies. And we also saw it with Caesar, which again, I breezed past when he's celebrating in the Punk Hazard flashback. But York is celebrating that she's now the only one. Now, Edison, I still don't know if he's dead or if he's just disconnected because he was badly damaged and he could still stand back up. Lilith obviously isn't dead and she's with the Straw Hats now. So she's either been temporarily or permanently disconnected. So York thinks she's dead. And we have to keep in mind too that Ethan is the only one that actually saw this impact. The bird yokai had been blasted off like Team Rocket. And then the other two yokai were not right there on top of it. So Ethan was the only one that actually saw Atlas do this, and Ethan got blown up, you know, temporarily or permanently, who knows? Probably temporarily, but I mean, we'll see. So York is probably going to believe that she's the last one left for a little while. And we should also keep in mind that Vegapunk's brain is still alive. It's still in that vat thing. So as long as we don't Buster Call the island after the Straw Hats make it off of the island, then we still have the opportunity to put an antenna on Lilith if that's what Oda is going for, if we're going to do that, if we're not going to waste the brain, which I don't think we are. Which, if that's what we did, it would certainly be fitting to start the arc with the first Vegapunk that we're introduced to being Lilith, and then we finish the arc with the new Stella, or rather with the new antenna wearer and main Vegapunk being Lilith. I think that would be kind of cool. You should have seen us in our Patreon stream. We were cracking up at this panel where the Iron Giant starts speaking directly to to Luffy, and he's like, Joy Boy, and Luffy's like, he's just looking around, much like with Bonnie, where he's like, yeah, again, I don't know who you're talking about. Like, that's what he's doing. And the robot's like, focus up, buddy. And Luffy, that blank expression on his face when he's eye to eye with this giant Iron Giant that's fighting the demons on their behalf. There's explosions happening, there's deaths happening left and right, and Luffy's just like, huh? Like, it's just so funny to me. It feels like classic One Piece. It feels like old school One Piece with Luffy, you know, chaos happening around, huge reveals major things happening, and Luffy is just like, you know, finger up the nose, like, what? I love it so much. This is also the art piece that T-Scene did this week, and she focused on the more emotional side of this, which is probably better, honestly. I get caught up in the humor sometimes, but honestly, the emotions have been pretty stunning here as well. Especially when I was rereading this right before I edited the video, I was really struck by the Iron Giant's words. He said, Joy Boy, I'm so happy to see you again. You go ahead. Your enemy is my enemy. Oh, I'm so happy I get to fight for you again, Joy Boy. Joy Boy is in danger. I must protect him. I just feel so much emotion coming off of these words I mean, the Iron Giant woke up in the middle of a war. The Iron Giant fell in the middle of a war too. He lost a war with Joy Boy the first time, and he's fallen so many times, and since waking back up, he's been attacked by these immortal yokai, and it seems hopeless once again. But what's his mind on? The fact that he gets to fight for Joy Boy one more time. It really shows the bond that they must have had, and really reinforces the likelihood that they truly were nakama, that they would do anything for each other, and the opportunity to fight for you one more time to get your enemies off of you so that you can go, so that you can run, is a gift to him. And I think T-Scene captured that more emotional side of this scene so well, with having the brightness in the Iron Giant's eyes, but also it's almost like I can see the emotion and the joy in the Iron Giant's eyes as well here. With the birds flying past, the sky in the background, the bright colors, you can just feel the magnitude of this moment for the Iron Giant. As always, T-Scene is linked in the description. So the Iron Giant is thrilled that he gets to protect Joy Boy once more. And Luffy is thrilled that he can talk. He's so excited that this awesome, cool robot is able to speak. The rest of it, who cares? And I love it because it feels so, again, it feels so classic Luffy. So the Elbaf warriors, the giants, are like, all right, killer, so the Iron Giant's your friend. And he's like, nah, he's talking about somebody else, but he seems cool. And then Luffy realizes that he's the only one that can hear it talk. And I feel so dumb because I do feel like Oda put the hints out there perfectly well that only Luffy was the one hearing the Iron Giant speak, and that it's the voice of all things that he's hearing. You know, it's Zunisha, it's the Sea Beast, it's the Iron Giant. So that was a really cool little mini reveal. I'm so appreciative of just the beauty of this particular chapter. I love the humor of seeing Frankie and Sanjay just excited to see the big robot do cool things. Like, we are, again, in the middle of a battle with immortal demons, and they're just like, cool robot, let's see it go, let's see what it does. And then the cool robot can't shoot anymore because it's been a while, and the weapons aren't working anymore. And the humor around that, like, oh no. And them all being excited, and it just like doesn't, like, you think you're getting an epic scene, but in fact it's Oda bringing the humor. I think that again played out perfectly, and again I'm gonna love to see it in the anime because I think it'll be hilarious. So Iron Giant, he loses one arm, he manually stops the worm beast with his other arm. Saturn jumps onto the ship, which just looks disgusting. I mean, Saturn's design is so gross. With his old man head, his vacant void eyes, and his gigantic spider body just perched on the boat staring at them. Ugh! It's terrible. So we've got one yokai blasted away. We have one that's been blown up. We have two that are currently descending on the Iron Giant, and we have one on the ship. So the Iron Giant has one more trick up his sleeve, and it looks like he's going to use it. I will say this, one thought that popped into my head is the Iron Giant said, there's a lot of time that's passed, and my weapons don't work like they once did. I don't think Bonnie's age fruit would work on the Iron Giant. Why don't I think that? I can't really tell you. There's nothing that has told me that it shouldn't work or that the Iron Giant isn't human enough. I mean, I don't know. So maybe it could. Maybe Bonnie could revive those weapons. But I think since Bonnie is currently shooting off in the other direction with the Straw Hats, and since the Iron Giant specifically said, I've got one more trick up my sleeve, Joy Boy, you think I could use it? I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that probably the Iron Giant has some sort of self-destruct, and we're going to get a second explosion or something of the like, and this will be the Iron Giant sacrificing himself. So essentially what we have here is Atlas sacrificed herself to take down one yokai. The Iron Giant is going to sacrifice himself to take down the boar and the worm, but we still have the spider on the ship. So we're gonna need one more sacrifice, probably. And Kuma is currently there. And so is his daughter. So we still might get one more real big sad. There's also the opportunity for it being either Dory or Bragi, which I think would be a really cool subversion, because the fact that Saturn jumped on the ship and then said, Kuma, Bonnie, and you have Kuma and Bonnie right there, Bonnie in her little girl form and Kuma watching. So it seems like it's setting up for Kuma, and Kuma has been poised to be the final sacrifice of the arc pretty much from the beginning of the arc, or really early on in the arc. So I do think that it's going to be Kuma, but I think that Atlas was a really good subversion of the sacrifice that we were kind of expecting to come. So it's certainly possible that it won't be Kuma. I just think it will, but I'm just throwing that out there that Oda might subvert again and give us Dory or Bragi. No matter what, I'm probably gonna cry. So love that for me. I think my one complaint in what is near a perfect chapter in my eyes, like this is a truly standout chapter. I think we got some extraordinary panels, beautiful, impactful panels, some impactful scenes, and some incredible literary symmetry in this chapter. I mean, stunning chapter. My one complaint is while Oda is constantly ending his chapters on cliffhangers, that's kind of Oda's thing and probably just the way of being a week-to-week mangaka. You have to end on something to keep the people coming back. So ending on a cliffhanger, fine, but I think just the fact that we've been ending on pretty much the same cliffhanger over and over again for the last many chapters, which is Vegapunk saying something that indicates something that could allow us to theorize a little bit, but ultimately doesn't really tell us anything complete. It's just more vagueness. It's starting to feel a little bit repetitive or stale to me to continue to end in this manner. That said, I do think that we have one more reveal that Vegapunk has for us. I do think that his message hasn't ended yet for a reason, and the whole world is sinking and you're probably all gonna die is a good one. But I do think that Vegapunk has one more bomb to drop at the end of this message that I do think that we'll hear. So either this week or the next chapter, either next week or the next chapter, I see Vegapunk saying one last thing to make us all freak out. We'll see though, I don't know. What did you think of the chapter? Did you enjoy it? What was your favorite part? I would love to chat with you more in the comments. I'll see you again soon, bye.